Hi, my name is Simone Kestlerton. I'm art director at the Delic Entertainment, and today I'd like to show you how to draw Rufus in goal. As an example, I'll be drawing the characters for the box art of the Deponia trilogy, The Complete Journey. And I'll be showing you step by step how it is done. We use Photoshop. Yes, have fun. So at the beginning I sort of start off with my brushes, have the right ones, don't take too hard ones. I like sort of a bit softer, but not too soft, otherwise you wouldn't get anything done. I have a small sketch of Rufus, and now I'm trying to recapture that and find the right volumes and his stance to get that right. Of course, I have a model open. I have him open on the other monitor, so I can see how he looks and to get the sizes and the proportions right. It's always important to see are his hands too small, or is his face large enough, and you always have to keep that in mind, and then that's best to have it open next to you. Yeah, so here I sort of try to find the pose and to get the volumes right. I'm still really in the finding phase. I think I'm having a bit trouble with the knees and his legs. Don't like them that way, so I sort of start off again. Yeah, that's how it usually starts. Okay, and when I now I'm kind of happy with what I have here, so sort of put it on more transparent and work darker on top, sort of on the very rough sketch, slightly less rough sketch, on which then at the end I put the cleanup. Oh yeah, here sort of his head was a bit too big, then I sort of pushed it down. It's good to be able to just sort of cut things apart and push them to the places which you want to have them. It's always important to have Rufus's expression right, him looking slightly dumb and a bit clueless. So what did I do here again? What happened? How did this happen? Why is it always me doing stuff like this? Yeah, and still trying to find the proper volume, sort of his right shapes. I always pay a lot of attention to hands. It's important to have them right because they convey a lot, and it's always good to have pretty hands. I mean, if somebody draws good hands, I'm always happy. I usually draw them in the train, and when people sort of reading a newspaper or playing around on their mobile, I always sort of sketch that quickly. Sort of you need really hands aren't that easy, and you need a lot of practice. That's like that with everything. I mean, you really need to practice, and in the train you always have unsuspecting models, so I like doing that. Always have a sketchbook with you, that's really important. Yeah, here detailing him more and more. His jacket, of course it's a bit loose and it's sort of flying a bit. I mean, but it looks better than when it's just hanging down, so I always give it a slide as if there was wind, so this is a bit more open and it doesn't just hang there. Yeah. And what I've also find very important is the volumes of like how when the leg is bent, the ring which shows me, okay, how far can I look into this leg, how far is it bent, and these cylinders, to have them right at the beginning, sort of they give you the right illusion of volume. If you just sort of would ignore that or do the volume just the other way around, it would confuse people, and I think that's what often happens if people aren't that haven't been drawing that much. They sort of confuse the volume, sort of draw like when the knee is bent, they would sort of draw it the other way around sometimes, and they wonder what's going wrong. So keep in mind your volumes and your cylinders, and at the end everything is done. Now the cleanup. Here it's important to get the lines right and the line weight. I always vary between a couple of brushes. With like the raising brush is usually slightly smaller than the one I paint with. Yeah, and here This file is really large. I had to do this in very large because it's for the cover and we need it in high resolution. I don't really recommend drawing in that large files because, as you see here, I erase a lot and try to get the lines less wobbly. But the larger the file, the more tricky it is to get crisp lines, and so I have to erase a lot. So find your own size for the file. I like working with 2000 pixels in the height. There I get pretty lines, and yes, that works better for me. But you have to find out what works for you. Yeah, the rules with the lines are in Deponia always a bit like thinner on the inside and outside a bit thicker. That gives it inside a bit more detail and on the outside a bit more weight against the backgrounds. I mean, it's important when you sort of have this thicker outline, the figure stands better before the background, so that's why we sort of did that. But I like to have it a bit thinner sort of inside, so it looks a bit more detailed and not as chunky. I mean, chunky is actually a good word for the style. That's also important to go for a bit chunkier forms. But yeah, these are the rules anyway. I mean, I just sort of do that. Yeah, and then go into coloring. And here you can see me now on the new layer underneath. I sort of blocked in just the complete color. And quickly with the lasso tool, I select in the line layer my shapes I need. And then you can just fill it on a different layer, the colors. It's as simple as that. This is a bit tedious, but when you're a bit... when you do this more, then it becomes easier. Well, it's not that tedious, it's just has to be done, but it's not that creative. Yeah, and then shadows. Shadows are to be bold with your shadows. Don't be too hesitant. I think it's important to sort of look out where you put your shadows. That's not only just under stuff or sort of the most hesitant shadows. Here it's like the light is coming from above, so that means that his whole body is bent forward and the shadow is on his belly, and that gives you more volume. Shadow is all about giving volume to the figure which the rest can't convey, so don't be hesitant about it. Just it's completely blocked in. And shadows isn't something which comes that easy. You have to practice it and see what works. Yay! Done. So now I start with gold. Basically the same way as with Rufus. I have a small sketch of her. And here it's important to get the attitude into the pose right. I mean, the history is that Rufus broke something again. In this case, the cover where the rocket goes through, and she's like, "Oh, Rufus, what did you do again?" So that's get the expression right, the stance, and yeah. I tend to go a bit too realistic, so I'll be correcting that in the course of this drawing. I mean, not too realistic, but her body, the proportions are slightly too realistic, so I sort of make it a bit smaller and her head a bit larger, so more cartoony. But yeah, all in all, she's of course more slender than Rufus, a bit more elegant. Her hands are more elegant than his. Yeah, I pay a lot of attention to the face, getting the volumes right there and where everything is positioned. It can be very tricky to get everything positioned right. Everybody knows who draws knows how tricky sometimes the eye to the side of the face, or to get both eyes to look good with one another. Always one looks good, but then the other looks crappy. So watch out there, and always it's just a thing of balancing it right, and the eye in front is always a bit larger than the one to the side, but it's a very delicate balance, so pay attention there. I like how she's sort of annoyed with Rufus, and I like drawing her expressions. I like drawing girls more than boys anyhow, but that's just, I think that's with most people is this, that boys like drawing boys and girls like drawing girls. Well, or no, they basically can draw them better. Probably boys like drawing girls better too. Everybody likes drawing girls. Well, yeah. So here, it's me changing stuff and detailing it more and more, sort of now. So I don't have that much work in the cleanup. Here, the folds are important in her torso and her suit, so it doesn't look as if it was painted on. Sort of give that also a bit strength and yes, sort of a feeling of material. Yeah, here her arm is just a little bit wrong. Now I've corrected it. Of course, I have a picture of her open on the other monitor as well, sort of having a look at her details, where are the buttons and her belt and everything. Okay, the belt isn't there yet, but it will be coming right now. Yeah, and that indicates it's always it's the same as with Rufus. It's important to get the volumes right, and the way her hips is tilted are tilted. You see that by the belt. I mean, it sort of indicates which way it's pointing, and also here the how you look into the gloves, and yeah, always look out which way your curves are pointing. I don't know how to say it differently. Yeah, still adjusting things. I like that tool. It's the warp tool. It's very helpful when you already have a drawing which actually is quite pretty, but you'd want to transform it slightly and in a more soft way than just cutting it apart and scaling it. Yeah, so here the bending of the knee is also again indicated by the roundness of the boot, and so you can see that on the one side it's less round than on the other, and that's why you can sort of look inside the shape, and that's what indicates the direction. I'm not a big fan of Gold's feet. I think they're a bit too chunky. I should have designed them differently. But here you can see I'm trying to get the pose a bit more dynamic by also sort of giving it the leg even more bend, even though that isn't that realistic, because otherwise it would look weird if somebody had a leg that bent in real life. But sometimes actually legs bend more than you think, and that's again something what you should do. Look out how people stand and how legs can bend in funny ways, and if you sort of get that from real life, it's your best. It's the best way to find how to draw interesting poses. So I do that a lot, to draw from real life. Okay, and now with the cleanup. Same as with Rufus, thin lines on the inside, outside thicker. Also from the top, make them, like with that eyebrow on the top line is slightly thinner than underneath. That's also a rule. Sort of the light comes from above, so also the lines above are slightly thinner than the ones from the bottom. I mean, it's very slight, but if you think about things like that, you do get more life into your lines. How much effort goes in just sort of adjusting an eyebrow. I think that's horrible, because that's the size of the file. It's really annoying. But that's also starting jitters. I think that gets a bit better. I pay attention to the eyes and make the lines a bit thicker on her lashes, sort of to draw focus to them, although the other lines in the face are very thin. Okay. And when the cleanup is done, filling it in, here you can see me actually doing it the other way around. I first started off with the shadows and just after filling the form. It doesn't matter which way you do it. I mean, here you can also see your volumes and everything. It's maybe you can say it's not that distracting, all the colors, but I really don't care which way around you do it. Yeah, keep in mind where the light comes from, like the leg which is bent back is a deeper shadow. And also the arm, which is sort of pointing away from the light. Having the fingertips slightly in the light, because they're pointing upwards. Even small, slight shadows in the eyes. All just to convey volume and to give it more perspective and basically volume. Okay, now colors, blocking those in with the select tool. Now she looks more like gold as well. But you can see me picking the colors from a file which I opened myself up sort of just to quickly get them. I mean, we have a swatches of this, but it's actually much easier just to pick the colors of the existing file. So just now it's only for me to color in the lines and I'm done. Yeah, and these figures we'll be using them on the cover of our box art and also for standees. And yeah, I hope you liked it. See ya. Bye.